So today we're going to do a range test here in Norway with the brand new AVATA FPV drone from DJI. And we have this road here which is exactly 2 kilometers. So it's going to be interesting to see if we can actually get it close to that 2 kilometers. So we're going to use the motion controller and also the FPV controller, and we're also going to use the goggles 2 and the goggles version 2 to see which one is giving us the best result. So the first setup is going to be what you get straight out of the ProView combo, the AVATA, the goggles 2 and the motion controller. Then later we're going to change that over to the FPV controller with the same combo, the new goggles and the AVATA, and then later we're going to go with the version 2 goggles. So let's get these connected and let's see how far we can actually fly here in Europe. Yeah. Okay. So everything is recording and we're gonna go a little bit higher here just so we get away from those power lines, and we're gonna go over to the sports mode. Let's see how far this can fly. So we're now getting close to 700 meters here. We can see that the signal on the RC and the HD signal is pretty stable, and we still have 50 megabits per second here, which indicates that we have full signal, still full signal. So we're gonna go a little bit higher, and we're at 82%, still full signal. So we're now closing in on 1,200 meters here, and we can still see the signal is pretty stable. So I think we're gonna go to about 60% battery. Still full signal here, 50 megabits per second. RC and HD signal is stable. We can go a little bit higher. Megabits is dropping. We're now at 30, 38, 49, 50. And 1,500 meters, 1,600. It's going down a little bit again, but it's still stable. I'm flying a little bit slower now, just in case. So we're getting close to 2 kilometers here. Close to 2 kilometers. It's pretty impressive. So 31 megabits per second, and we are actually above 2 kilometers. Actually above 2 kilometers. So 2,200 meters. I think we're gonna start to turn around now. So 2,200 meters, and I'm only turning around because of the battery. So no issues actually with the signal there. The HD signal on the way home, it dropped a little bit, but 2,200 meters without any issues at all. Wow, that's actually pretty good. I was actually not expecting this to go any further than like 1,000 meters, or maybe like 1,200 meters or something like that, but really impressive actually. 2,200 meters with the motion controller. Now this is line of sight, and some people might fly their drone like this, some people might, you know, go behind trees and stuff like that. So it all depends on the penetration and everything that you have as well. How is the penetration with the goggles? Well, not really that great. I have an example that I'm going to show you later, but the penetration of these are not really that good. Okay, so we now have a successful 2.2 kilometers range test here with the CE model without any interferences or issues, anything at all. And I think honestly that we could have gone maybe 3 kilometers, maybe even further, but it all comes down to the battery as well. I don't want to climb any trees right now. So I've now connected the FPV controller to the AVATA and to the goggles. Everything is linked up. Let's do the same flight and see if we have more or less issues with the transmission signal, and if we can get as far as 2.2 kilometers or longer with the FPV controller. So looking at the range test with the DJI FPV controller, we can see the same signal strength as we saw with the motion controller at 2.2 kilometers. And at 1.5 kilometers, we had a small drop in the signal, which was most likely caused by the building underneath. And as I was flying a little bit slower with the FPV controller, I also had 7% more battery at the same distance of 2.2 kilometers, which I turned around with the motion controller. So pushing it a little bit further, I ended up turning around at 2,652 meters, which is quite impressive if you ask me, since this drone is marked as 2 kilometers only here in Europe.
But like I said, this is line of sight and there's no interferences at all. If I start going behind some trees at about 500 meters, we have a significant drop in the HD signal. And this is the image transmission signal from the goggles, so the penetration is not really good. But for the RC controller, we see a full signal bar. So if I were to lose the signal with the goggles, the controller would still be connected to the AVATA. And with the image transmission lost, the AVATA would stop, hover, and return to home.
Now moving over to the next combo that you can get, which is the Fly Smart combo, which comes with the goggles version 2, the AVATA itself, and also the motion controller. On the version 2 goggles here, I have some omnidirectional antennas because I really want to see if the penetration of these goggles are better than the goggles 2. Because as you can see here, the goggles 2 struggle with penetration behind like 3 or 4 trees at a few hundred meters, which is not really that impressive. So I really hope that the omnidirectional antennas here from TrueRC is going to be better than the goggles too. So let's start with the combo that you get, which is the goggles, the AVATA, and the motion controller. 2.2 kilometers is the distance that we need to reach. So let's just get this connected and get it up into the ear. The bad thing about this though is that I now have to connect my phone and link everything together, and then I need to do the same thing next time when I'm gonna fly the goggles too. Unless you get some different like foam for your goggles version 2, the goggles 2 is so much more comfortable to wear. Yeah, wow. That doesn't feel good at all. So we just passed 3 kilometers with the motion controller, the goggles version 2, and the AVATA. Now I could probably do the same with the motion controller and the goggles too, but I think it all went down to the battery being a little bit low, and I wanted to, you know, fly home at 60-ish% battery. I could probably have gone 50%, I guess. So it's safe to say that the goggles 2 and the goggles version 2 are doing a pretty good job. Now the megabits per second dropped very fast on the version 2 goggles, but once it dropped to about, you know, 25 megabits per second, it was actually quite stable, and I felt more secure and comfortable with the goggles version 2 over the goggles 2. Now there's only one test left to do, and that is with the FPV controller. So this is now linked up. Let's see if we get the same result as we did with the motion controller and the version 2 goggles, or if you know, this is worse or better. Yeah. So we managed to get to the 3K mark with the goggles version 2 and the FPV controller as well, though I felt it was a little bit more unstable when it comes to the signal over the motion controller. Not sure why I experienced that. It was the same flight, same route, same everything, except for 2 different controllers. And when it comes to the omnidirectional antennas that I used from TrueRC, I did actually expect them to be worse than the goggles 2 when it comes to a straight line of sight flight, because it's not directional antennas, it's, you know, circular antennas. Really happy with that. And the next test now is gonna be penetration test, I guess, but I'm gonna leave that for a different video. So I honestly didn't think or expect the motion controller to reach the distance of 3,000 meters. I'm actually pretty impressed. 3,000 meters
with full signal, no issues at all with both the version 2 goggles as well as the goggles 2. Really impressed. When it comes to the FPV controller, I actually felt like the signal was dipping a little bit more than it did with the motion controller. The signal coming from the RC FPV controller here is going straight out of the antenna here. So you gotta face it like this towards your drone. So if your drone is up there, you have to face it up towards the drone. And the same goes for the motion controller as well. The antennas are in here. So you're gonna face it towards your drone like this, or at least have this part facing towards the drone. I think it's some sort of a omnidirectional setup in there, not quite sure. Now when it comes to the goggles 2 definitely gives you a better image over the goggles version 2, and when it comes to range, I think they give somewhat the same result. I pulled the trigger on the distance on the goggles 2. I was a little bit unsure and I didn't want to lose the AVATA. It is a lot of money for a drone, and yeah, I think they provide somewhat the same result. But you're not buying an FPV drone to fly in a straight line. So you're gonna fly behind something, you're gonna fly around something, maybe through something. So I think we need to have a penetration test of these 2 goggles, also with both the controllers, to see if, you know, one is better than the others. And on these I have the omnidirectional antennas, which is going to give you a better penetration, and well, depends on how far away you fly. But we're going to try with these and also with the stock antennas, which is coming with the Fly Smart combo, but that's going to be for a different video. Now my overall experience of, you know, this range test, I'm really impressed. 3 kilometers on a 2 kilometer drone here in Norway, in Europe. I'm actually really surprised. Once I get to a place where I can really test it, I'm gonna have my wife with me, and I'm gonna go as far as I can until it drops in battery and just see how far it can actually go here in Europe. So conclusion, you know, if you want to fly with this, or the goggles version 2 or the goggles 2, I don't think you'll go wrong with any of the setups. For me personally, I actually think I'm gonna stick more to the version 2 goggles and the FPV controller with the AVATA. It feels safer, better for me, my personal opinion, and this, you know, gives better image quality, but I feel safer when I'm using the version 2 goggles. Let me know down in the comments below which of the combos do you have, and do you have any issues with your signal, and where have you been flying when you had issues with the signal, whether it was with the new goggles, the goggles 2, or the version 2 goggles. Let me know down in the comments below. So that's gonna be everything for today. Hope you enjoyed this range test, and until next time, take care, and I will see you soon.